if I had to introduce myself, I would say that I am Javier Marti from sunshinehypnosis.co.uk. I'm a hypnotherapist. I specialize in helping people resolve problems through the issues that they may be having or affecting them at the subconscious level. Mm-hmm. And you do something a little bit different. You are Ismene from ismenecall.com.
Yeah,
is that correct?
That's absolutely correct.
Okay. And explain a little bit then, what do you do, or how is it different from what I do, or how is it similar? How do you help people in general? Think about your clients, think about the people that you have helped lately, about the difficulties that they share with you.
I suppose what I do, I specialise in, well, I've got a passion about helping people create a better sense of well-being in their life by looking at the different aspects of their life, how things like childhood might affect beliefs that is then taken on into life, and that might be kind of holding people back. So I think my passion is allowing people to reach their greatest potential. I'm also particularly interested in, if we're going to have a well-being model, we're not just individuals, we also are in a community, we're in society, and also we live in a greater world. So I'm quite interested in how those combine. So the individual thriving, reaching their potential, in the communities, how we can best support each other, how we can create systems that can help support well-being, and also how we can be mindful about the environment that we live in.
We've been friends for some time now, and I find it quite interesting that angle that you have about what you do, which is like the part of connection with the community, which is not something that I particularly specialize in. I help people one-on-one or in groups or through presentations, but usually my work is not so much connected with the community itself. I hope that I concentrate on helping people be the best that they can be, but not usually thinking about how they integrate with the community. I suppose that by becoming better people, they will integrate better with the community. They will make the world a better place. But that is a really kind of interesting angle that I saw in what you do. And you started your blog recently, right? I saw that you're also a good writer. So tell us a little bit about that, because I saw that you had a couple of posts already. One of them I read, really nice, that is explaining a little bit who you are, what you do. So tell us a little bit about that post, how you explain what you do, who you are, and because I remember that you were talking about how certain people want to put you in a nice little neat box, and just how would you explain what you do in the sense of how is it different to what people may think that is what you do?
I think that's a really good question. I think counselling can be quite misunderstood. I think therapy generally brings up all sorts of feelings for people. So I think I get people that are in crisis that need to come in, but people assume that it's only a space for people in crisis or people that are mentally ill, or you've got to have something really wrong with you. So I think it was really important for me to write and put out something to the general public about saying, what is counselling? What does that mean if I'm a counsellor? What does that mean as a person? Because people come up with all sorts of associations about me as a therapist. So that felt really important. And I forgot.
People think that's fine. People think that sometimes that the typical thing is they say to us therapists, they say, "Are you analyzing me now?" With me being a hypnotherapist, it's even more, because they're like, "Don't look at my eyes, no, don't try to hypnotize me," or things like that. Some people I have found that are really seriously afraid of just interacting with me at some point. It's a minority of people, so it's just more of a funny thing. But it's interesting that there's still this, I don't know, myths and misconceptions surrounding hypnosis, hypnotherapy, these kind of things. And people have a kind of old-fashioned view of it. Perhaps they expect the swinging watch and things like that. It's not exactly what we do in hypnotherapy. So it's interesting. It's an interesting thing. I feel that in what I do, particularly, in a way, we're going really much straight to the source of the problem, and we are concentrating on trying to resolve it as fast as possible, in a way in which we are able to change the life of the person. But it's interesting that when they come like, I don't know what I'm going to find. I don't know if I can trust this person. But later they relax, and it's quite good. And that takes me also to another point, which is, what are the most common problems that people come to you for, or what do you find that people are suffering the most within this society?
Well, I think it's interesting seeing as many clients as I do, because people come with lots of different things. Yeah, the kind of things that you would imagine, things like bereavement, relationships, breakdown, maybe can't get relationships, adoption, many different things. But what I'm very interested in is actually, once you kind of get down to it, so that might be the initial thing that somebody comes in for, actually when you get that back, there seems to be a massive problem for a lot of people about kind of crippling self-esteem. Now, self-esteem is one of those things that is so absolutely vital, that you can have a job, have a partner, on the surface it can all be very fine, but actually without that self-esteem, life might feel anxious, life might feel dark, it might feel depressing, and people don't necessarily know why they're doing what they're doing. So I think a bit like you, it's kind of tracing that back to the source.
I think that what people don't realize sometimes, and that's what we do, we help them to connect things, to see the connection sometimes between, oh, when you do this, you feel like this, or when you look at things this way, you are doing this other thing that is not helping you. So sometimes I feel that in what we do, there's a big aspect of just enlightening people and helping them to see, look, this is the way the mind works, this is the way the body works, they're interconnected, and if you do this, then you will have this consequence, and you feel like this because of this, and this. So I think also that one of the main things that I say in therapy, and it's also something that I'm bringing to the book about how to be happy that I'm writing at the moment, is that one of the first things that we need to explain to people, I think, as therapists, and I think that this is very important that everyone understands this point, is that society today is very complex. It moves very fast. We are expected to do lots of different things. These things are taking our energy, our money, our resources, our time, our attention. And it's completely normal that people get overloaded. It's completely normal that people get stressed, anxious, depressed, that they have problems sleeping, all things like this. And I think that this is one of the first things that it will be useful for anyone out there that may be seeing this video to understand. In most cases, it's not the fault of the person, because I'm sure that it happens to you as well, in the same way that it happens to me, that the person comes to you and they feel like the ugly duck. They feel like, oh, I am weird, I have this problem, everybody else can cope with these things, but I can't, or I don't know, does it happen to you sometimes?
And I think that normalising process is really important, because I think also if you feel ashamed of something or you feel a bit unsure, then you might want to hide it from other people for kind of fear of what might other people's reactions, what might that mean about me, what is wrong with me.
And that makes it worse.
Absolutely. So I think it's really important also to remember that everyone will have maybe behave in a similar way, if not the same way, with the same life experience or the same external pressures. So I think that's really important to remember. It's not because there's anything wrong, it's just that people react and behave with the limited resources they have. If you have a limited amount of resources, you're going to behave in a limited amount of way. And I suppose that's a lot of what my work is, by saying, okay, life is the way that it is at the moment, but by understanding what motivates you, what drives you, you can also work out what doesn't serve you, which is wonderful. It might be upsetting because then you have to kind of relive things or look at things in a different way, but it gives you choice.
But I think that that's also an important point, that's part of our training as therapists. We may help them to relieve things or to go over things that were really the cause of the problem, but we are trained to take them there in a controlled environment so that they don't suffer so much. I think that that's another misconception of what any of us therapists do, which is like, oh well, he will make me cry or something like that. Yeah, I heard you say that, something like that. Yeah, you had to tell me that one, because people were thinking, oh, if I go to a therapist, he'll make me cry or something like that. It's not necessarily that. We are trained for a long time and quite in depth in order to help people deal with those feelings, deal with those experiences in ways that they don't suffer as if they were going through it again.
Oh,
and I'm sure that counseling can do it in the same way that hypnotherapy can do it. That's part of what we do. That's why we're specialists in what we do in a way. I was also going to tell you or to ask you about the fact that people feel so overloaded in society, and this is affecting them in so many ways. And they feel like there's a problem with them, like everybody else is managing fine and it's okay, but they are not okay. So the interesting thing, that is also something that people don't realize, is that we do not get any training on how to be happy, on how to feel well, on how to have a balanced life. So it's completely normal. And that's another thing, if we make mistakes, if we're not leading a balanced life, well, nobody taught us.
No.
So that cannot be expected from us, you see. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely crucial. And I think when we're told what achievements are, you know, how we grow up, so when we get exams or not get exams, when we get that job, you know, so when the goals are that, we assume that when we hit them, we must be happy. We don't get told about actually how do we manage. Many of us are living with little time and a lot of things to do. So we're not taught about how to have a balanced life. Another thing that is time and time again in my work is about self-nurturance. We are often taught how to be excellent students, excellent employees, excellent partners, parents, do your home. But actually, quite often I see people that are not spending enough time actually nurturing themselves, taking really good care of themselves, being really kind to themselves. And
that's an important part of life.
Essential.
Of course.
Absolutely essential. So I suppose for me, counselling can also be, and also the wellbeing sessions that I do, is a space for people to gift themselves that. A space and time to explore themselves, to find out about themselves, to have rest, have relaxation, find out tips and techniques that can help. So I think
when we were
very beneficial.
at the beginning of this video and we were warming up for the video, we were both like, oof, it's always so difficult to be in front of the camera, no? So we were having our fun here, at the same time nervous because we're being filmed, but it reminded me of this point that is also a very important point that I feel that is affecting a lot of people out there, a lot of our clients, a lot of people in society in general, which is the quest for perfection. You see, everything seems to be that, like, I don't know, in a way in which we have to be good at everything at all times in everything we do. And there's one very important lesson that I got from a business mentor, a person that I work with, which was action, action, action. You see, this video, we both know it won't be perfect. It won't be as good as it could be. And this is something that we were talking about at the beginning. We are not perfect, nobody is. But we can just relax, be ourselves, and then things start to flow. And this applies to absolutely everything in life. It applies to a job, it applies to public speaking, it applies to sitting in front of a camera, it applies to passing your driving tests. The more you relax and the more you detach yourself from the outcome, and the more you are in the moment and just enjoying the present moment for what it is. Yeah, of course we have a camera in front of us. Of course people may see this video in the future, but we can concentrate on enjoying each other's company. We can concentrate on the meaning of our words. We can concentrate on learning. And then when we are not thinking about the outcome, the possibilities of having a better conversation, a better experience driving to pass that test, that will in turn allow us to pass that test, or to enjoy that talk or presentation that we're giving out there to someone, are much higher. You see, so I think that is also an important point, that we help people to get away from that need that we all seem to have nowadays of oh my God, if you are not famous, if you're not great, if you're not perfect, you shouldn't put yourself out there. Well, how do you think that people get perfect? Practicing, taking risks, doing things that they don't necessarily want to do, and that's how they eventually get there. What do you think? Is this something that you also see in your work?
Absolutely.
The perfectionism.
Yeah.
Because it can be quite immobilizing sometimes.
Absolutely, and cause enormous amounts of stress, and also can be really demobilizing actually, because if you feel that the expectation is very, very high and people think they've got to get from here to there, but that feels really frightening and big, then it's going to make it really, really difficult. Or some people might just think, actually, I'm not going to do that at all.
And
so I think it's stepping it.
Self-expectation that is too
high.
high.
Massive, yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like...
I think that's the one that's really crippling.
They have this critical parent that is telling them, oh, you're not good enough, or don't even try, you're not going to get anywhere. These are things, these kind of voices, or sub-personalities, as I call them in what I do, are things, part of the personality that we can help them to deal with, so that they get more nurturing voices, more positive, more healthy. But also, it's important to pay more attention, to make a conscious effort, I find, in paying more attention every day on the present moment and on becoming your best friend. I think that that's very important, isn't it? Because the world out there will always be hostile in a way, but we can make it less hostile if we are our best friends, if we pay attention to our thoughts, to our words, not only the words that come out of our mouths as we speak to others, but also in the way that we talk to ourselves in our own minds. It's very, very important that we become aware of those thoughts, that we're watching them, and as we concentrate on the present moment, we also pay attention to the way we talk to ourselves, the way that we think about ourselves. In a way. What do you think? How does that?
I think with therapy, it can be, whether or not that's hypnotherapy through counselling, it can be really, really enlightening and very freeing for people. Because people might feel stuck, they might not know why they're sabotaging a certain thing, why they're not getting where they want to get. And I think that's where I feel particularly passionate about, that we are so capable of achieving our full potential. When we're a happier person, we're a better partner, or we're a better person in the community. We treat the world, animals, in a kinder way. But unless you know what is driving you, or what might be holding you back, or what's crippling you, it's very, very difficult to change, because you just get stuck in the same thing that you've always done. There's always that saying, do what you do and you get what you got, yeah? So there's something about not changing that. So I think that's where therapy can be absolutely crucial, in being able to identify. If you identify, then you're able to release. Yeah, and where that kind of comes back and how that makes sense.
Sometimes I say to people, okay, if you have these kind of problems, these are the different things that you can do. You can do nothing about it, and the problem will get worse. That's a fact of life. Because this, let's say, units of charge that the subconscious mind gets are cumulative over time, so things get worse over time. Or you can go to therapy, which is one of the things that I will also recommend them, because sometimes I say to people, okay, imagine that is you want to get over a breakup, a relationship that didn't turn out as you wanted it to. You can get over it. I got over a relationship and it took me 5 years. So, of course, you can do it on your own. There are certain things that you can do the healing on your own. But maybe in a few weeks of therapy, you can have great results. Maybe in a few sessions of counseling, you can have great results. So why would you spend 5 years doing it on your own and suffering, when with the help of somebody else, you could do it much faster? Do you think that applies to what you do as well?
Yeah. And also, it's getting, people are very resourceful, and it's also about getting in touch with the way that I work, that kind of authentic self, that one that knows, the one that knows what they need. But quite often, what I would call an adaptive self, so what we've kind of built up over time through negative experience, parental voices, that kind of thing, they're kind of in war with each other. You know, the adaptive self's going, come over here, and the other one's saying, well, hang on. So that can they can have a bit of a dissonance between actually who they really are and what they're doing, which can kind of cause all sorts of things. So I think for me, it's the journey also of actually coming back to, who am I? What do I like? What's going to make me happy? And identifying, things like the critical parent, Yeah, and getting to a more adult self.
That's a good point. When we talk about happiness, which is the subject of the book that I'm writing about, and sometimes one of the crucial things that you mention in the blog posts that you write and in your work in general, I think that that's the most important thing. And that is also something, is the quest for happiness is something that we all do in one way or another. But who knows exactly what is happiness? We find in our work people that are trying to be happy and oftentimes failing because they don't know what's the road to get there. They say, oh, there is happiness. There's a lot of, I think, and it's an interesting thing, a lot of materialism in our society and a lot of confusion, and I'm sure that you have a lot to say about that because of the way you frame your work, but I think that there's a lot of people out there that are chasing the wrong dreams. And one thing that I like to joke about, it's a bit of a cruel joke only for therapists, but oh well, this is who I am, so I can say it here. But it's not so cruel, it's just funny. But sometimes when people come and tell you, you see, they say, well, I feel that my life has no meaning. Okay, and you analyze their life and you see all the connections and you see what they're doing right and you're doing wrong. And sometimes I feel like to tell them, well, maybe you feel that your life has no meaning because your life has no meaning in a way. So it's not something nice to say, it's not something that you will tell them, but seriously, it's something that we definitely need from time to time to analyze. What is the path that we're following? Why are we doing this? Why are we getting this 100,000 whatever job in this very stressful place, doing something that we don't really care about, that doesn't connect with who we truly are? What are we doing with our lives? You see, a lot of people are not pursuing their dreams. There are things, because we are all different and we all have different passions. This is just something that all human beings do. Things that we are passionate about, things we love, but yet you see very few people out there that are doing something that is really, truly in accordance with what they feel, with who they are in a way. And I think that's very important. What do you think about materialism, society, people chasing money and paying mortgages and thinking, oh yeah, well, you see them stress for the mortgage, stress for the taxes going up, stress for the money, for the recession and everything else. But in the end of the day, maybe they could do things differently, and it's also an awakening process in a way.
Absolutely, awakening process. And I think when we come back to well-being, financial worth, of course, we need that. We need that as a security. We need to buy food. We need to have a house. So, of course, I would never say that financial well-being is absolutely one part of it. It's an essential part. But I think part is the word. When anything gets out of balance, when we come off alignment, we're going to feel all over the place. This is why I feel really passionate about well-being being an entire model. Because if one of those aspects of well-being, for example, if the rest of your life's very good and you don't have physical health, it's going to be really difficult to have good emotional health. You might lose your job. That's going to have an impact on financial wealth, and around we go. So for me, it's about having everything in balance. We could have a lot of money and be really lonely. Yeah, connection, we're relational beings, is essential. So I think the way that I work and help people discover, who am I, what do I like doing, how can I build a life around me that is meaningful in all aspects. So work like this, the job that I do, I do it, yes, there's a material part, but because I feel passionate about it, because I get reward, because I love it so much. It's amazing seeing people grow. So I guess we're all different, so it'll be different, the kind of person. But it's finding out, how can we make everything that is around us an extension of ourselves?
I also think that we were talking about before about how to grow business in general and how difficult it is when you are starting, you're promoting yourself, you're working, you're doing this, doing that, you are juggling so many balls in the air in a way. But the thing is that, you see, when people think about changing their lives, it doesn't mean that they have to have all the answers right away. Maybe they don't know right away exactly what they would like to do, but at least they already know that what they're doing is not working. What they're doing is stressing them out. in a way that is not good, not healthy for them, because the human body, the human mind are not prepared to deal with stress over a long period of time. It's not a mechanism that works that way. The burst of stress that we have should be like that. The situation is resolved, fight or flight mechanism. We solve the situation, we go back to the baseline of our normal, natural state of being. But if we have continuous stress every day, well, no wonder that the rate of cancer is so high today in our society. No wonder that so many people cannot sleep or have all the kind of problems, or relationships are breaking so much. So much is happening because of stress, and at the root of it is that, let's say, inability that we tend to have to analyze our own lives, analyze our own motivations and why we do what we do and where we're going, and is it really, it's also a matter of priorities. Is it really money the most important thing? Is it career progression? We really need to think, are we doing it to impress someone else? Am I doing what I do because I'm afraid that if I stop doing this, my wife will leave me? You see, what is the price that we are paying for sacrificing our dreams?
Well, I'm doing more and more. I'm doing workshops, and also that's why I developed the wellbeing sessions, because typically the people that come to counselling or have done in the past are people that have got a specific issue or a problem. But what I'm finding actually, more and more people that I meet, stress, anxiety, restlessness, being asked to do more with less, is causing all sorts of problems. Definitely. So I think, now from what I looked at, it was £1.24 billion in employers' money are being used because of sickness due to stress. It's causing like 60% of what I looked, 60% of base underlying illnesses and disease in the world, 60%. So also that's why I'm interested in how we're using the environment and also how we're using in society and communities, because we've got to live in it. It's all very well being a great individual, and me and you can do a lot of work personally, but also systems have to change to be able to support people to have good well-being.
Definitely. I think that will greatly help our quest for happiness. The only issue is that if we wait for the systems to change, we're going to wait a long time. So what would be perhaps the main tips? Let's brainstorm a little bit here. What could we say that will really be of service to the people seeing this video? So let's talk about, for example, the most common problems that people come to us for. Okay, and then we can give them a few tips on what they can do in order to feel better by themselves. Either they can come to us at some point or go to some therapist in their area. But what would you say that is the main problem, and give us a few tips to help them deal with that situation also? What would you think? The main problem of people that come to you?
Well, it's so varied because I work with such a big age
Take
range.
Stress, what we were just talking about a moment ago. When people come to you like, I cannot cope. I was had a client just a few weeks back, and he was a 27-year-old guy, and he was doing a sales job, and he had like, I don't know, £15,000 budget of something that he had to sell. £15,000, that was 15,000 every month, and he was so stressed, really stressed. And the problem is that he himself was kind of believing what he had been told, that he could produce up to this standard, and therefore he had to do it. And when we analyze the standard, and I come from the world of business as well, I have a background in business, so when we analyze what they were asking from him, it was just totally unrealistic. Basically, I had to tell him, well, we have two options here. I can help you change, but the issue here is that the problem is not you. The problem is your environment right now, and what you're being asked to do. What you're being asked to do is to do the job of 3 people. And this is impossible. You won't be able to do it. So you have two options. Either you talk with your employers to change the situation. You see if, and he was like, oh, no, I cannot do that. They will fire me. No, they will fire me. And I was like, well, you see, if you don't do this, you are going straight towards a nervous breakdown. So it's up to you. If you don't want to do this because the problem is not you, I cannot help you so much. And that was quite an interesting case. I could only help him so much, but if we have demands that are 3 times what we can do, nobody can cope with that. So we also have to be realistic and to change our environment, to be brave. I think that this is one of the pieces of advice that I will give to people. Think about what is the worst thing that can happen. Maybe you are not happy where you are. Maybe you have been dealing with an awful amount of pressure for far too long. You know it, the others know it. I had another client and she told me, I say the same thing because it was a very similar case. It's happening so much in society today. And she said, oh, I had that conversation already. And I was like, wow, great, excellent, okay, and what happened? And she said, they said, because she said, I already told them if I continue like this, I'm going to burn out. I won't be able to do the job. I will have to stop altogether. And they say, this is a risk that we are willing to take. And I was like, well, if your employer knows it, if you had this conversation, not only you could sue them for this, that's another matter, but if they know that what they're giving you to do is not normal, it's too much and they don't care, is one more reason to get out of there somehow. It's one more reason to have that conversation again. Because if you are working for other people and they're asking you to do much more than you can do, you are still human. You can only do so much. One of the things that I'm writing about in the book is the comparison. As we bring computers into society, we are also being more and more asked to perform to the standard of the computers, to the standard of the robots, to the standard of the machines, and we're still being human and we still have our limitations. So there's an interesting thing happening there, that people are being asked to do much more with much less. Has it happened to you? What do you think that people should do about that?
Absolutely, and I think it is that being brave, which again comes from self-esteem, actually believing that I am worthy. I'm worthy, I deserve, I'm important, I'm valuable. And I think so many people don't believe that about themselves, so that when they're presented with a challenge, be that with a family member or an employer or someone on the street, I guess for people that don't believe any of those things, not worthy, not important, not good enough, that's one that I come across a lot. I am not good enough. So that makes life very, very difficult. So I think first of all it's about acknowledging, do I think that I'm good enough? If I don't think I'm good enough, what do I need to do about that? Because if you don't believe that you're good enough, no one else will.
That's right. But that also implies a comparison. Good enough to what? Enough for what? Compared to what? Why are you comparing yourself with others in the first place? Go on.
Yeah, that's really important. So it's kind of identifying that. And then permission. Because I think sometimes we can be our own biggest critic. We can hold ourselves back. And I think that word, I love that word, permission. I give myself permission to succeed. I give myself permission to be important. And I think when we're coming from that viewpoint, then when we are presented with a challenge of people that are trying to make us work in a way that doesn't feel ethical or right or unreasonable, then we're in a much better position to be brave. And I think we do have to be brave and we do have to be courageous in life if we want to really get to a place where we're having really good sense of self and sense of well-being, and to be able to respond from that place and to be assertive, to be kind and hold our boundaries. It's really essential.
Regarding the permission part, I think that it's also important, regardless of what we're doing, that we give ourselves permission to fail. You see? Because we won't be good, is what we were saying before. We won't be good all the time. We won't do everything to the standard we would like to do, but life cannot wait for us to reach perfection. You see? So go out there, do something, try to do something. I have a client, I'm very proud of her, and she came to me for depression and she was really low and everything, and I say, okay, what's your passion? What are you doing with your life? Let's see, let's analyze everything, let's go. We do in what I do, it's one part is hypnotherapy, but the other part, naturally, as I get to know them, I can advise them on other little things, tweaks, changes here and there. Look, do this, change that. Do you realize that this is connected with that? And she was saying, well, yeah, I'm very sad, relationships, I'm lonely, I feel down, I don't like what I'm doing and everything. And I say, what are your hobbies? What is your passion? Are you following anything of this? And I encourage her to start doing something about this. And she started, and she is now, last week just I had an email from her, and she's like, I'm very happy. She was, I don't know if she's still doing it. She set up a little business of, how do you say, the jewels, this kind of
jewelry.
Jewelry. Jewelry. I think she's from Colombia, and she does really nice things that are like kind of the Colombian edge to her jewelry. And she's displaying her jewelry in some places, and she's like, wow, you were right, this is great, I'm so happy. You see, sometimes just doing something, and she's not exactly where she would like to be or where the business could take her, you see, but she's doing something that she really enjoys. It doesn't mean that she stops being effective in her job. She's still doing her job. She's still good. I'm sure that because she's a good and formal, serious person, that she's still doing her job properly. But in the time that she has off, she has found this hobby, and she has started to put hours and time, and she created a beautiful blog and everything. And she's really happy. She was featured on the Sunshine Hypnosis Facebook page a few weeks back, a link to her blog, because she has the little pictures there of her jewelry, and it's just the start. She just had, I don't know, when I linked to her, she had only a few of the models of all what she would like to do, but it's a start, and it's feeling so fulfilling for her. I think that's also something important. Give yourself permission to fail. You're not going to get it right the first time, but do something that you like. Pay attention to why you are doing what you're doing, and really begin to connect things. Is this really what you want to do? Where is this going? In 5 years' time, will you want to be doing what you're doing? Because we also have another tip that we could give is be totally honest to yourself. Don't play games with yourself. You have to be honest. You have to be realistic. Yes, if we are in a job that we don't like, chances are that in 2 years' time we will still not like the job. If we're in a job in which they're having these incredible expectations of us and they're completely unrealistic, and we don't do anything about to change that issue, then in 2 years' time it will be the same awards. You see, so we have to be really serious and realistic. Where is this going? Why am I being part of this? Yes. If we don't have any other option, then we can work on ourselves to manage our levels of stress, because that's the only thing we can change. We have a family, we have to put the bread on the table, whatever. I understand, of course, sometimes we're very limited. We cannot change the outside world, but we can change how we feel inside.
And I suppose what I want to add to that, and I guess that would kind of be the bit between the individual and also the kind of the community, be that your family, be that the wider community, is that we can all get and I can be as guilty of it as anyone else, of it being about me, which then goes on to cause all sorts of outer, wider problems that we can now see that with the recession and, greed and that kind of thing. So actually, when we don't feel like we have enough of anything, so whether we come from a background of lack, not having enough of love, money, status, affection, whatever it is, then we want to hold on to the tiny bit that we have. And actually a way of relieving that and actually feeling that we are abundant is actually by something what I would call loving kindness, which is also in mindfulness. So about treating other people how we want to be treated, about offering people the thing that we're really trying to hold onto ourselves. So not having enough love, actually by giving other people love, all of a sudden there seems to be a lot more love.
I think that you mentioned there a very important point as well, which is the mentality that we may have as we go through life, which is we can have an abundance mentality in which we believe that the universe, and I'm not so keen myself because of the way I am on talking about metaphysical terms, but some people do. It's not important for me how we explain things. The important thing is if they work and if we are able to put our point across. But there's a big difference between having a scarcity mentality and an abundance mentality.
Absolutely.
You see, if we believe that tomorrow will be a better day, if we believe that there's enough for everyone, then we won't be afraid of the competition in business, for example. If we believe that the world is a good place, then we won't care about what our coworkers are saying about us. It's just not important. It doesn't matter to us. We just do the best job that we can do, and whatever gossip is around is secondary. You see, and this applies to all areas of life. It's important, I think, that we instill in our clients a sense of a positive attitude towards the future, faith, a sense of faith, and a lot of them come to us because they're drained of that sense of faith and
actually the possibility for many people that I meet, and also from my own life experience, there's been times when I felt that there just wasn't enough possibility, that there was just this option, and this option. And to be honest, this one was dark grey, this one was lighter grey, and this one was black. So none of them felt particularly inspiring. Yeah, I didn't think, yes, I'm going to go down this one. And I would say that can be very common for people. So then it feels like, oh, life is such a chore, it's hard work. People are hard work, yeah? It's tough. And I think that's what I feel really passionate about. Actually, life can be very magical and wonderful, and people can be good. So I think it's about opening up people's possibilities, looking at core beliefs. Why do you believe that? What has been your experience? If that's been your experience, does that mean it's always going to be your experience? Or what other choices have you got? What are the possibilities? And what you said interestingly about the coming back to the moment. I think we're so busy being on our head about the future that quite often
we're never in the moment.
No, we don't sit down. We miss that the weather's beautiful. We miss what it feels like to drink a cup of tea or eat food or to really be with a friend. And I think it's gratitude over the small things.
We're never really there. Several cultures around the world, particularly the Eastern cultures, have been very notorious for their pursuit of mindfulness and living in the present moment. And they say very clearly, live in the present because there's no other moment.
No.
And it sounds easy, but it's not so easy, particularly in this society in which we are so much oriented to results all the time. And that's another thing. It reminds me of something. You see that sometimes we are so much results oriented that we think that everyone is like this also. I'll tell you a story. I went to one of the therapy rooms that we used, in this case in London, and I gave to the receptionist, if she's seeing this she'll get upset, but I gave her a flower, I think, because you know, it's just something that you do. It's not particularly important. I didn't think so much about it. She's just a part of my success as a therapist. So I wanted to do something nice for her. And she still gets paid. That's her job, and she wouldn't do anything else because she's a good person and a professional. But I remember that she was very surprised. And she was like, what is this for? And I could see that the question, because she actually asked me, what is it for? The question in her was, what do you want from me? You see, I didn't want anything from her. I was just giving her something. But it seems that today we're losing touch with that ability of just being nice to another person just because they're fellow human beings and we all like to be loved and we all like to be appreciated. It wouldn't have made any difference to me to give her a flower or not a flower. She will continue to have done a good job for me and for where she works. But the thing is that it struck me like, wow, people are... Another person, I remember once I met someone and she said that the boyfriend gave her some flowers and she thought instantly, immediately, she thought, he must have done something bad. And this is also so common. It's also a sign of low self-esteem, isn't it?
I'm just writing, my next blog is actually, kindness is a very big thing. Because it's free. It's something that we can access whenever. If we're feeling bad, if we're feeling good, And I can remember when I was very, very ill. I had post-fatigue syndrome or whatever. I didn't know what was wrong. I was very, very unwell. And I went to the petrol station, and I shouldn't be admitting it, but I didn't know how to put air in my tyres. I admit it. And I was very, very weak. I just about managed to get to the petrol station and was trying to find the thing to put in, and someone walks past. Oh, can I help you with that? Something so simple meant that it was just such a relief. I didn't have to panic, I didn't have to go in the petrol station. He just helped me. And the same day I went to the chemist, and I ended up getting some free vitamins, and I laughed. Well, I obviously looked like I needed it, but at that time in my life I was feeling really low, very physically unwell, and just those little acts of kindness, I think people can't imagine how much that might impact the day. You know, and we just never know what people are dealing with. And when you walk down the street and you give someone that smile, maybe they haven't had anyone smile at them for a really long time, and it just touches them enough to keep them going. Because we are relational beings, so even just that little bit act of kindness, even if they don't know you, even if you go and buy that big issue, maybe actually that to him is a matter of life or death. Someone cares enough about me to get through to the next day. And I think that's really underappreciated in our society.
Definitely.
Kindness.
Definitely. And I think that finishing, I think that we should all concentrate also that it's a really good thing to do things for others without expecting anything in return. If you see something nice, if you see something positive, if someone does something good for you, appreciate it. Even if they don't do anything good for you, even if you don't know them, if someone is wearing something that makes them look nice, tell them. Because most probably they will be pleased that you do. If you see someone doing a good job, tell them. You see, there's nothing wrong, we don't lose anything, and we will make the world a better place in a way. Ismene, it's been really nice to talk to you today. Remind us of your website.
It is www.ismenecole.com.
And I'm Javier Marti from sunshinehypnosis.co.uk. Also, you can find more information about me on javiermarti.co.uk. And we will see you here at some point. Thank you very much for your time and attention.